Right guys, so in this video today, we're going to be talking about basic errors and mistakes people make early on in their training. Charlie, Billy. So in this video, I thought I would talk about some of the real basic stuff that people tend to fundamentally get wrong with these breed of dogs early on. So I've made tons and tons of videos on this stuff before, but I never know when new people are joining my channel. So if you're new to my channel, welcome to Hampshire Spaniel Training. Just to let you know, I have a huge back catalogue of videos that you can watch on training. Probably the two best series are the training vlog, so Charlie's vlog and Billy's vlog. Charlie being the cocker and Billy being the springer. If you go back through my back catalogue, you can watch every episode of those. But if you are new to my channel, my job is to help try and guide people through the process of bringing up a working breed spaniel. I would say predominantly, overwhelmingly, the majority of my clients tend to be cocker owners. There are so many different directions I can go off with these conversations, and it's hard to stay on just topic with one thing. I could talk for hours and hours on all the do's and the don'ts and the things you should get right and the things that you should get wrong. But I'm going to try and pick out 2 or 3 things in this video, and I'll probably make some other videos on some of the other aspects of dogs. But as I said, without sounding sarcastic, I always say to people there is a hint in the title: working cocker, working Springer Spaniel. And we're bringing in these working breed dogs into our home environment and then hoping and expecting them to behave like a more domestically bred dog. Now, what I would say is, in the end, they do tend to be very good house dogs, but due to their high energy and drive, I would generally bring them up slightly differently from if you were bringing up a Cockapoo or Dalmatian or a Staffy or whatever breed dog people buy in the domestic sector. What I would say is the first 6 or 8 weeks, all the crate routine, all the structures that go with that. And if you are getting a new puppy soon, by the way, and you're looking for some training and support, perhaps have a look at going through to my Facebook page, Hampshire Spaniel Training, where you can send me a message and I can potentially help you work through the process of bringing up your puppy from 8 weeks. So the majority of my work is coaching and looking after people, giving support to people buying new puppies. Whether you've already got one or whether you're getting one, it might be worth sending me a message, and that's something that I can help you with. Anyway, to get back on topic, whether you are buying a working breed dog or a domestic dog, the first 6 or 8 weeks, the crate routine, creating a non-anxious dog with no anxiety issues, that's not sound activated, isn't trying to sound activate you, no resource guarding. So I don't want to touch too long on resource guarding, but resource guarding within working breed cockers is really quite prevalent. And with the way that I teach, it's not something I personally ever suffer with. But I think that's just due to the way that I structure my training. I will do a separate video on resource guarding because it is such a big issue, especially within working breed cockers. But staying back on topic, as I said, bringing up these working breed dogs in the house, we have a nice clear training routine. The biggest mistake that people make, and I have this conversation with some of my online clients, I have this conversation on daily, almost weekly, almost daily occasions. It happens all the time, is that because we end up overstimulating them by having them out for too long, because our human brain is saying, oh, we should have them out all the time, they get overstimulated. When they get overstimulated, they get bitey. Because they get bitey, they then look to, as a human, we're problem solvers, so we look at a way of fixing that. So we give the dog something to chew. We then shoot ourselves in both feet for the one thing long term that I want to manipulate and control my dog through, and that is retrieving. Because I do manipulate and control retrieve for lots of different reasons, because if you've got a good retrieve where the dog can run out and come back, you've already got a recall under pressure. What I mean by that is if your dog can run out, pick a retrieve and come back, that is a recall under pressure, because most spaniels don't naturally want to return to you with something. So if you develop that early on in the first month or so, you've already got a form of recall. Although I'm not a massive fan of the word recall, but anyway, that's another matter. But also because I want to find something for me to do to stimulate the dog to interact through with me. keep up with me there. So if I can get a basic retriever and back, and that can go into lots of other stuff, it's a way of you entertaining the dog, making the dog think and stimulate. So that's another issue in itself, is that people try and run the energy off these dogs, which is a massive mistake, because that's where they fall into problems later on. Whereas what I'm doing, if you watch any of my vlog series, and by the way, I've got a new vlog series coming this late spring, summer, with a new puppy. But if you can find things to do with that dog that involve you and the dog doing something for you and interacting with you, that's going to be a far better relationship long term, rather than just letting that dog run round, which is what everyone thinks. You know, people constantly saying to me, oh, spaniels, they're crazy, they need loads of exercise. What they need is this stimulating. And if you can develop an early retrieve, you can then build on those blocks and build everything around that retrieve. But again, going back to what I was saying about giving the dog something to chew, it seems like the nice and fun thing to do, but now that dog develops a behavior as to what it means to them to have something in their mouth. So you now go to do a retrieve where you throw something out, runs out, picks it, lobs itself in its back and starts playing with it. And you're like, well, why is it doing that? Because you were overstimulating the dog by having it out for too long. You've given it something to chew. It's developed that behavior as to what it means to have something in their mouth. And now you can't get the dog retrieving. So as I've said, coming full circle on that, you've shot yourself in the foot a little bit for a real long-term section of training, which personally for me, I feel is the best way to get your dog learning, training, and interacting with you. So having that early crate routine, which is something I work with my online clients with, having that structure allows you to give the dog focused time when you have it. But then by not having the dog out all the time to start with, it means that the dog is not finding things to do. So a big part of my job is more about what you don't do than what you actually do. So you want small pockets of intense training where it's like bosh, 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 done. Then you put them away. But what people end up doing is having them out for too long. So the quality's not there because they're trying to do too much volume. And the dog's overstimulated, so you don't get the concentration. So a spaniel, for example, in a class is the worst thing you can do. It can't cope with standing around for 5 or 10 minutes. It's not genetically made up to be like that. So you want to come out, do your training. So all my early trainings, like 1 minute here, 2 minutes there, 3 minutes there. We then have a little bit of control freedom time in a safe space where there's some parameters of things I do and I will let my clients do and not do. But it's really about the long game. And that's where I think the majority of people struggle these days, is that we live in this age of Amazon Prime where we can have everything today or tomorrow. But you need to be very, very patient training these dogs, because they will outthink you, they'll out-exercise you, and you'll end up creating lots and lots of issues that could have been avoided. So I'm always saying to people, if you watch my vlog series, everything you see me doing is all I'm doing. There's no magic going on behind the background. I'm actually doing even less than most other people. But what I'm doing is quality and then building on that layer by layer by layer, rather than doing too much of one thing, letting the dog run around a lot, and you lose all the focus in your training. And the problem is the spaniel will run rings around you and learn bad habits quicker than you'll be able to train it. It is really, really difficult. And as I said, there are so many different topics that I can talk about. Anyway, I'm probably rambled on here a bit. So I think basically what I'm trying to get across at the beginning, if you haven't already switched off, is that I want clear, controlled structure through the early months. I want to be doing a little bit really well, a little bit of training really well. And then the rest of the time, I want to be very controlled in not allowing the dog to develop bad habits. And that normally comes from most people by just trying to treat them like a human. And ultimately they are not a human, they're still a dog. And you need clear, strong boundaries and structures to what you do. And you need to make sure that you are the leader in everything that you do. And it's only possible to do that if you have a nice, strong crate routine at the beginning. Once you get your dog on that road to training and you start to be on top of it and you feel like you're having control, then I say to people, think about relaxing back on your routine a bit. But if you don't have strong, clear parameters early on and structure, I can almost guarantee you that spaniel will end up running rings around you. Maybe not even necessarily in the house. It tends to be more externally where we have the issues. And I get messages on a daily, weekly basis where people had one this morning saying, you know, I've watched your videos and I've seen everything you said not to do. Unfortunately, I think we've done. And a lot of the issues that you said that can happen, we seem to have had. So anyway, Hope this video has been some help. I know I ramble on a bit sometimes and I do apologise for that. It's just impossible to get all the information in my head across. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe if you can and like. If you have any questions, stick them in the description below. Otherwise, happy training, guys.